Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Chronicles, with us, the Red Devil Chronicle. My name's Andy.
And my name's Nick.
And this week, 3 games won, 2 signings missed out on, and 1 out-of-form striker. All that and more coming up next on United Chat. But we're not called the Chronicles for no reason at all, are we? Let's start with where it all began then, last week with the Villa game on Friday Night Football. For me, a game of 2 halves. Nick, how did you see the game?
Pretty much standard with United at the moment, as you were if you want. Solid performance, didn't really create a lot. Apart from one Mata key pass, I don't really see a lot else going on in the game. We look very poor, Rooney especially very poor again. Obviously, we'll talk later on about some of the players that impressed. But again, limited chances. This is what's worrying me.
It's poor, isn't it? I mean, it felt like United bossed it in the first half, especially in the midfield area, in my opinion anyway. But we certainly came off the boil second half. And as Nick points out, again, a lack of chances created. It's an ever-growing problem for United. Joe, how did you view that?
I think this is United's problem this year. I think it's just what we're doing wrong completely. I think once we got 1 up, I think we're just kind of relaxing and just thinking we can take control of games, and it's Chelsea-esque. It's getting boring. You look against Brugge, and we went 1-0 down, and I saw a United team that were willing to fight for the 2-1, and it's like that every game. So as soon as we get the lead, we just sit on it, and I think we need to start progressing and making more efforts, more chances on goal when we've got a lead, rather than just sitting back and parking the bus like Chelsea.
I think it's a good point made.
I think
risky.
It's a long-standing issue that we've had since Fergie left. I think under Moyes we were very lacklustre. I didn't create a lot of chances. Obviously there was that game against Fulham where we crossed the ball an incredible amount of times. I think it was about 80 times or something. And obviously now Van Gaal's coming out. Our problems last season, again, we're creating chances. Obviously we created less than QPR, who were eventually relegated. And then this season it looks the same problem again.
So is it that we're risking sort of sitting games out at 1-0? Is that our problem?
No, I think there's a confusion within the United team about what we want. I've mentioned it in previous weeks. No one knows what the defensive role is. It doesn't seem to. Everyone knows what the attacking role is. Obviously, Young is very disciplined. He knows when to go forward, when to stay back. That's why Van Gaal constantly picks him. That's why we've seen great form under him. But at the moment, there's a lot of uncertainty over the actual philosophy of the team that Van Gaal keeps going on about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a problem that seems to be ever grown for me looking at the team is the retention of the ball up front. It's not up to scratch in the final third, in my opinion. Joe, I mean, when you see the ball go up front at the moment, it just seems like it's constantly coming back at us again within seconds. There's no sustainability to our attacks.
Oh, I don't. Where that issue lies, I'm guessing Nick will point it at Rooney.
I can imagine.
Yeah, no, I think it's just a problem of we're changing that front four, we could call it. We're just changing it around too much. There's no, I mean, one week it's Januzaj somewhere on the right, and then it's Mata in the middle. There's no consistency with our formation.
A lot of it stems from playing players out of position. I think we play Mata on the right wing. We played Memphis in a number 10 position. You know, with Rooney is not a striker. We'll talk about him later on again, but he's not
played that position for 3 years. No, so you can't expect him in 3 games to readopt that position and take it on as
exactly.
if it's...
So arguably we've got 3 out of the 4 front men playing in the wrong positions. So when you talk about ball retention, it's not really going to happen, is it?
Exactly. I mean, do we have to accept, guys, that at the moment, early doors in the season, that LVG is going to be trying out different things as he tries to work out again what his best team is? And whilst things are going right and we're getting the 3 points, do we just have to accept that that's the way it is?
I completely disagree that he's trying out new things. I think he's done pretty much the same thing every game, but with just with the same squad, but in different formations. He should know his squad by now.
He's been the manager for over a year now. He should at least start to see the bed of a spine starting to grow. Obviously, we've got the uncertainty over De Gea, so we don't know who the goalkeeper is going to be in 18 months' time. It could be De Gea still, it could be Valdez still, he's still there. It could be Romero. None of us have any idea. Obviously, Smalling at the back is probably that one stalwart that we've got in there who looks like he's going to be long-term. But in terms of the actual spine of the team, you look at City with Aguero, Silva, Toure, Company and Hart. They've got a spine that's been there 3 or 4 years, so obviously their ball retention, especially on the top of the park, is a lot better. We don't have that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is that you could argue is you've just brought Schneiderlin into a midfield with Carrick, and they're very 2 similar players. Might be a problem playing the 2 of them together, if I'm honest. Schweinsteiger, of course, coming in. Where'd you bed him in? And then you've got Darmian, who, fair enough, has settled really well as a right back, and Memphis. So you have got new signings throughout the team in different areas of the pitch. I mean, will things improve over time? Will it gel?
I think that at the moment we're trying to be exciting at times, but I think we're also holding back on a lot of things. So I think where the problem lies is that the flair that we're trying to show is losing us the ball, and then there's no passion to go and get that ball back other than from people like Chris Smalling, who seems to be the most dedicated player on the pitch at the moment.
It's a formation issue as well. That's another thing that we have.
Yeah, it definitely could be.
We've signed 2 more centre midfielders. Everyone assumed we were going to play 4-3-3. First game of the season, Van Gaal introduces 4-2-3-1. So we've got 2 spare midfielders sat on the bench doing nothing. So if we're going to play 2 centre midfielders, we're overcrowded.
If we put Herrera on, say, in the team at the moment, would that not, the flair, not add more chances to lose the ball?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about Herrera certainly later in the show, but he should be starting. He should be in that team.
I think
but is that not a chance for us to lose the ball again with that player? Because we've got 2 ball-winning midfielders at the moment. So
we have, but then we've not got enough up front to keep hold of the ball. Herrera has a risk in him, and that's what Van Gaal doesn't like about him. But he's the one that's playing those creative passes that make the chances, and that's what we're lacking at the moment.
I mean, I think maybe the formation is where it's kind of happening at the moment. Why it's happening, I think. We're playing people like Januzaj when Herrera is sat on the bench. It's confusing to all of us.
I assumed when we signed Schneiderlin and we signed Schweinsteiger, I thought, okay, Schweinsteiger might be a long-term replacement for Carrick. He's 3 years younger, so I thought he'll slot in there. I thought we were going to play, say, Schweinsteiger in front of the back 4, Schneiderlin where Fellaini was playing last year, and I thought we were going to play Herrera on the right side of the centre midfield position. So we'd have 3 solid midfielders, but it's not happened that way.
Definitely. Let's touch on who impressed then during the Villa game. Let's look at the individuals. For me, the top one, man of the match, who should have been given, again, it was given to Daley Blind. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was good, but I'd have given it to Smalling again. He controlled the back line. He was one of those that was composed at the back yet again. He was a standout player for me. The other ones that impressed me as well, Darmian again, how quickly he settled is unbelievable. Memphis looked more lively. We'll talk about him more in the Brugge game in just a moment, but he looked lively against Villa because he finally got a bit more of a chance out wide on the left. And Mata as well. You mentioned about that one key pass, basically won us the game. The 2 times that you actually came inside and played where he should have been playing,
he was
played
dangerous.
2 great balls, one for the goal and one for Memphis.
If we
that
can't
he should
see
have
it, why
buried.
can't LVG?
I'm not sure.
I mean, that Januzaj goal was pretty lucky anyway, the way it went in. So, I mean, without that chance, it would be pretty, like you say, there's nothing else there in the game other than just sitting back and waiting for it. But would there have been another chance if we were 0-0?
This is the problem. Other than the 4 I've just mentioned in Smalling, Darmian, Memphis and Mata, anyone else that stood out as playing well in the Villa game?
I think Shaw's starting to turn on a bit. The fitness is starting to show. I mean, we saw it in both games this week. It's nice to see a player who can actually take the wing. I mean, we can't have that on the right with Darmian as much because there's no winger there for him to overlap. There's nothing for him to go at. But I think Shaw's taking that role really well. And I think he's one of the most impressive players that I've seen so far this season.
I'd agree. He certainly turned the game up.
I know Blind got man of the match, but I remember at one point in the game where Gested came on and you sort of looked at me with a nervous face, and I was nervous as well. 5'9" against 6'3", there was going to be issues, but he seemed to have dealt with it.
He was solid, and we've mentioned it a couple of times. He is an intelligent player. It's just whether he's got the talent.
I think against the lesser teams, he can do it. We can cope with having Blind at centre half against obviously the Villas of this world. But when we come up against the likes of Aguero or Costa, that's when we're going to seriously start having issues for different reasons.
I'm starting to take to Blind at centre back. I'm not.
I
know you've. I mean, the last couple of games, it's been risky, but then
it's a short-term fix.
Yeah, but the thing is it because Rojo isn't fit, or is that?
Yeah, I think that.
I think that's what it boils down to.
But he played really well in pre-season, so I mean, it wasn't like he wasn't fit. It was.
The problem
problem
we've got is Rojo was out at the tournament over in America, wasn't he?
And he looked like 10 ton Rojo when he came back.
So he had a break after that, and then, as Nick says, he did put on a bit of weight. The fitness has gone a bit. So Blind has been given that job as the ball-playing centre-back as well, and he has done a job, and he will do a job, like Nick says, against the smaller teams.
Does Smalling and Rojo not do similar jobs on the pitch?
I think Smalling and Rocco are probably the best centre-back pair we have right now in terms of in the squad if we don't sign another centre-back. Obviously, Rocco's left-sided, and he played left-back for Argentina, but I think he can slot in next to Chris Smalling. We've got quite a solid pair there, but I think people forget that sometimes.
Nick,
I think there needs to be a bit more structure to that side, though, of things, because at the moment, Blind is a totally different player to Smalling, so it's working quite nicely in that sense.
I'd worry about him, though, throughout the season in Europe, in those bigger games as well. When you come up against the likes of Aguero, that sort of quality, and the quality you'll get in Europe as well that we could potentially face.
We saw what Messi did to Boateng.
Yeah.
who's won the World Cup. Imagine what he'd do to Blind.
Yeah, I just can't see it. It's like Romero. It's a short-term fix. It does a job, and that's all it does.
Need it. Yeah.
Nick, I'm going to hand you the mic on this one for 30 seconds or so.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Who was less good in the Aston Villa game?
You know who I'm going to mention.
Yeah,
first.
this is why I'm giving you the mic for 30 seconds.
I thought Rooney was very poor. Obviously, a lot of United fans are battering it around at the moment on Twitter and other various social medias about Rooney. My issue with him is people forget our highest paid player. He's on £300,000 a week, whether that's image rights or not. That is still a hell of a lot of money. He should be contributing to the team. He's been poor for the last 2, maybe 3 seasons. Yes, I know he's played in centre midfield, but that is not an excuse. Good players adapt. He should be adapting. The odd long ball here and there, very good. The odd shot, if he's had one that's not gone on target. He looks overweight. He looks slow. He looks lethargic. He doesn't look the Rooney of 5-6 years ago.
I mean, you say there, he seemed to be dropping back way too much in the Villa game. He had 1 touch in the Villa box, which, when you're playing up front, it's just nowhere near good enough, is it?
Yeah.
He had the first touch of a brick wall as well, ball bouncing off him at all occasions. Joe, how did you see Rooney?
Well, I'm still a fan of Rooney. I know you have a problem with this,
no,
but
I'm a fan of him. Don't get me wrong.
I don't at the moment on the bench. I know we've got potential signings coming, but who do you play? You can't play Hernandez. He's got balls bouncing off him as well. You play Wilson. He's young and inexperienced. It's not. You need someone up front to lead, and I think Rooney still does lead the squad.
I still think he offers a lot for the squad. I agree with that. I just don't think he's a centre forward to take us forward and challenge for the title. I think he's, at best, if we get a world class striker, and now with our new reinforcements in midfield, he's a squad player.
I could see him becoming one, certainly. Joe, I'm going to pass you the microphone now for 30 seconds because I'm going to mention the name Januzaj.
You should let everyone know.
Your turn. 30 seconds. Januzaj, in my opinion, was poor. I know you have a bit of beef with Januzaj in general, but after scoring the goal, he did go missing.
I don't think I need 30 seconds for this one. I could go on about it all day, but there's only one thing. He's got no strength. There's nothing there. He goes missing in games. He can't pass a ball. He can't hit a ball. It was going wide. It was luckily deflected in. It's just not good enough from a player. I know he's only 20, and people say, "Oh, he's got time," but Memphis is 21, and look at the talent from that. He doesn't seem to have anything for the squad to offer other than slow passes and a bit. It's like watching Fellaini play in midfield with a bit smaller and a bit less bulky, but it's just a bit ridiculous. I can't even bring the words out to describe him today. I'm that angry about Januzaj.
I can sense it.
In terms of technical ability, Januzaj is probably a better footballer than Memphis.
You've got. I can't see it. I mean,
he is.
I could see Januzaj in a West Brom side, to be honest, and probably more effective there.
A lot of Memphis' talents comes from his physique. A lot of Januzaj's talents come from a natural ability. He can get past players. He's got a good touch. He's good control. The only thing that he lacks, like you did obviously highlight there, he is not very strong.
Well, I wish him all the best in the future, but I mean, he won't be at the United squad much longer.
I'm going to intervene in the fight.
It just shows you when Mane is being linked with the club how bad Januzaj is. So,
strong opinions from Joe. I personally think Januzaj is definitely a talent, but my view on this would be take him out of the squad for a bit and go and bulk the guy up a bit.
I said to you, I think a podcast a couple of weeks back, I would have loaned out Januzaj and Wilson to the same team.
He doesn't like that idea, though, does he?
Premier League team.
Obviously, he doesn't tweets about it.
Yeah, he doesn't like that team idea because he wants to play for United. Obviously, I don't blame him. But in terms of playing every single Premier League game and bulking up and growing up a bit, if we were to loan out Wilson and Januzaj together as a pair to one lucky Premier League team, would that not benefit both us, the team, and the players involved?
It would do, without a doubt. And I think Januzaj, as I say, it's an issue of bulking up in the Premier League. You need to have a physical side to your game, and he lacks that at the moment. He seems to have a lot of other potential things in his locker technically, which I know Joe doesn't see. But I think he perhaps needs that loan. I know he's against it, but sometimes you've got to do the best for your career and look forward.
I think Joe's blinded by Memphis' tattoos.
Well, let's move on to
physique.
Club Brugge.
Just distracted.
Let's move on to the game against Brugge. Of course, we won 3-1, which will give Joe a chance to chat about Memphis in just a moment. Firstly, I'm just going to ask you, though, before we go on to the positives, because it was a much better performance on the whole and a much better result. The game wasn't entirely all our way, though. Should we be concerned about how easily teams learn to play against us?
No, I think a lot of the teams that we do play against, especially in Europe now, the lesser teams, will play exactly like Club Brugge did. When we have the ball, they'll sit back really deep and put 10 men in front of it. when we don't have the ball, they'll push up really high and make it trouble for us, especially our centre-backs trying to pass it about. You know, that's something modern football we've got to deal with. We've got to have the players to deal with that. I don't think it's something that we can combat effectively.
My issue is teams find a blueprint to play against us, as we found last season when Chelsea did it, Everton did it, etc. It rolled on. We're not finding and learning a way to play against the way teams play against us.
Long term, teams always find a blueprint to play against you, in my opinion. You look at the Barcelona team, they've had to change their whole idea of play. You know, under Guardiola, they were very possession-based, obviously Bayern Munich as well.
Eventually, City rolled them over, didn't they?
Eventually you get found out. Yeah, you've got to change your blueprint. You've got to change your philosophy. I hate that word, but I'll use it. It happens every 2 or 3 years. You cannot stick with the same idea. How Fergie did it for so long is genius.
We've not been doing it for a year, though.
We've struggled with it ever since Fergie left. That's the problem we're having. There's a confusion.
We're lacking identity.
Are we missing Fergie or are we missing a different leader?
I think we lack identity.
I think we're getting punished for Fergie's longevity. I think that's what it is.
What do you think that the squad is just sticking with the same blueprint?
I think we've got players in there that were there in Fergie's days that still want to play the way Fergie's football played.
Who would that be?
New players in, obviously like a Carrick. He was a stalwart in Fergie's team.
But do you not think that
Smalling
Carrick
last
year was impressive?
Don't get me wrong. Yeah, they're very impressive. But what I'm saying is, when you play so long under one famous manager, it is very hard to adapt. And I question the adaptability of some of our players in the squad. The likes of Rooney, who's obviously the last 2-3 years has really struggled.
I think we've got away with it there against Brugge, in my opinion. Though when you watch,
they had 9 players missing by the end of it.
Yeah, exactly.
When Siemens went off.
When you watch that game back, the referee's blowing his whistle as the third one goes in, and effectively, if that game ended 2-1, that's about as good as a result as a draw. Because if we go there and they win 1-0, they go through.
They were right up for it.
So we got away with one there, in my opinion.
I think the referee should probably adopt public speaking rather than refereeing.
But players worth a mention. We'll move on to that just so Joe can have his chance and his say, because we all know his love for Memphis.
Shall I get some tissues?
He was the star of the show. He was phenomenal on the night. Scored 2 great goals at crucial times. Joe, without doubt, the player of the night.
Oh, I don't know about the player of the night. I know that I'm a massive fan. I think it's time that fans get behind our players, and I think that's what's lacking in the ground. You sit there on TV, you hear nothing from us. I mean, we're quite. It's like being at a funeral sometimes. I think that he was a part of a good team that night. I think that there was some loose links. I won't mention any names, but I think that he took control in situations where, I mean, a young player shouldn't be taking control of. And you look at, I thought he held on to the ball too long and then he smashed it in. And I thought, it's just madness what his talents are. But should he be leading? No. So I think that it was still a poor performance, but I think Memphis put in a good one.
I think there's one player that I'd like to mention that was, in my eyes,
I was going to ask you about it.
Yes, Morgan Schneiderlin.
Yeah,
I thought he was brilliant. He obviously, a lot of people will forget about that performance from Schneiderlin, but that was probably his best in United shirt yet. He did everything correct. He didn't give the ball away. He won the ball. He kept United ticking over. Obviously, Carrick left at half time, and I have to say Carrick's performance was quite poor.
He looked jaded, but he does tend to start the season quite slow.
He's
not getting any younger.
Yeah, I think that is his age. Yeah.
So I agree with you though. Schneiderlin again was very good. I think Memphis has to edge it. That was such a phenomenal performance, but. Schneiderlin was very solid. He's not a very showy player, so I think a lot of United fans will miss out on this.
They won't get it, yeah, but the thing is...
He'll probably become a very underrated, unsung hero at Old Trafford.
He's brilliant, though. We said for months he was our first sign of the summer, and now we've got him,
I think he was brilliant, and I also thought Shaw, who Joe mentioned earlier, particularly against Brugge, was phenomenal. Nearly conceded defending suicide, but then made up for it.
What have we mentioned Hernandez? I don't.
We haven't. No, go on.
Don't care.
I've got
in the words of Andy Tate.
I've got a fourth opinion on this one.
On.
I'm bringing James into the room, who's joined us in the studio today.
Welcome, James.
Hello. Just to throw out an opinion, because I know you're not a massive fan of Hernandez.
The little snake.
The little snake, as you call him.
I don't really care about
after Madrid is the greatest team in the world.
Yeah.
He came on against Club Brugge on...
Good reception.
It was a good reception. I think he did well, obviously, to get that. But I generally think as soon as he came on, he brought pace into the attack, which...
It was odd to not get an offside in the last 20 minutes. I think that's what we were all surprised about. I mean, again, balls were bouncing off him. He was just another
There was
player.
That one touch. From the Rooney long ball.
Yeah, well,
I don't know where it came from, but it was a phenomenal touch.
I mean,
he did look better on the ball. I will admit that he did look better on it.
Do you think Hernandez is a long-term plan for United if Rooney doesn't step it up?
Well, I think generally, his passing was a million times better than it was. And I think he brings something different that Rooney hasn't got, which is a lot of pace. I mean, he's
Could Rooney and Hernandez take a double up front?
he's not he's not a long distance shot by any chance. But because I know we're talking about the number 10 role before, if Hernandez was to go into the striker role and Rooney drops into the number 10, I mean, I'll throw that question to Nick and Andy, what they think.
It could work, definitely. The problem I've got,
I think
which
he's good enough.
I'll throw it back to you in a minute, is he's
Lot of
good
throwing going on today.
There
I'm not
is.
sure about football.
Toing and throwing. There's a bit of Paul and
He needs
Barry
a duck
chuckle
here.
action here. But what I would say about Hernandez, with you asking the question, is I think he could do a job in that role. My issue with him would be that he thrives on chances. He's an impact player and he needs chances. He's a poacher. How many chances have United been creating?
Is he just a super sub?
That would be where my issue
That's
lies.
all it is. Just break it down for what it is. If he was good enough, Madrid would have bought him. They didn't buy him. They won't buy him for 15 million quid. If they won't buy him for 15 million quid, what does that say?
I just don't
He
think
can't- he
United
can't-
are
he
going
can't
to
lead
provide
the
the
line
service
for
for
us.
him either. That's going to be the issue with him.
Could Madrid though?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, with
His record wasn't
the
phenomenal.
problem you've got with Real Madrid is the service is very much individual. Bale and Ronaldo are in it for Bale and Ronaldo. They're not in it for the team. If you went to a team that had proper wide players, then he'd do really well. But again, at United, we're lacking this now. Memphis is constantly cutting inside. Mata's constantly cutting
Mane.
inside. These players, though, they're not wide players. They're not throwing the ball into the box. That's what Hernandez thrives on. Do you not think that would be an issue, James?
I mean, absolutely agree with you on that one. And I suppose to an extent I'd say that is Rooney facing the same issues in terms of supply then. I mean, he said, well, I've had one bad game, it's everyone has to chip in. It's not just about me stealing the show.
I think it's a fair argument.
I mean, if he's not getting the supply, and you can argue that with Hernandez, I guess you could kind of point the finger at what's going on in the wings. And yeah, you had a cracking ball in from Memphis, which you saw Fellaini get a nice head on. I mean,
it's not hard to hit him, is it, really?
It isn't hard to, but I suppose at the same time you're saying that Memphis is cutting in, which, he showed that he can do it. Long distance wise, he had a cracking shot on him. Mata, again, he's kind of floating all over the place, and again, I suppose Hernandez really isn't the man to.
Are we
week in,
liking
week
Mata
out.
in this squad? I'm not sure at the moment.
I do. I just
think
think
if
he's
he was
out of
played more
position.
centrally.
I think I've seen the first shot on target from Mata in about 3 years.
One thing I just want to quickly mention as well about obviously Rooney again. 5 or 6 years ago, when he was the guy who was scoring 26, 27 goals in the Premier League, and he was at that point a world-class centre forward, he had a midfield behind him of the likes of Darren Gibson, John O'Shea, and ageing Scholes, and he was still scoring 25, 26 goals. He now has a midfield behind him of Mata, Memphis, Carrick, Schneiderlin, and he's not scoring many goals.
Is this because of the third? It's only the third game, or
I just don't think he's the same
how
player.
lo-
I think
you
he's an
can't
early
drop-
peaker.
You can't drop your captain though. That's the problem. When
Yeah,
It's not going to happen.
Van Gaal's put himself into a corner, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's definitely painted himself in a corner. The worst that could happen with Wayne Rooney, as James says, is he drops into the number 10 role and allows Hernandez up top.
If he was to drop Rooney, what do you think would happen?
Mike would
he'd
have
be
it.
going. He'd be going. Rooney'd be sticking the transfer request in again.
Yeah, and this time I wouldn't care.
Well, there you go.
Well, would we have a good leader in Mike in defence?
I'd be
Good
happy.
old-
I'd
good
be
old
happy with good
Mikey
old
Smalling.
Mikey. Yeah, I'd be
He
happy with
could
him.
take on the mantle. The more I watch him, the more you see him grow into it. He's definitely growing into that role, in my opinion.
Well, who is number 2 at this stage? Is it Chris, or is it who else is there in the squad that's a leader other than Schweinsteiger? But that's too early to put him in that role.
Well, that'd be it, wouldn't it?
Smalling. Yep.
It has to be Smalling. Right, finally something we agree on.
Bye Rooney.
In a breathless start to the show. But we're going to move on to hear what the fans had to think. There is a little bit more of Rooney, so it'll be interesting to hear what the fans have to say on this one. A lot more to come as well with the Newcastle review as well. Fan Takeover coming up next. Every Monday on Twitter, we ask you for your opinions around United on the big debates that have taken from the week before. I'm delighted to say we're joined on the phone at the moment by Chris. He's going to talk to us about some of the big issues from the last week. Chris, good evening.
How we doing, Nick? How we doing, Andy?
How's it going, mate?
Very well, yeah,
Not
all
bad,
good.
not bad.
You okay, yeah?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad.
Fantastic. Now, Chris, we're going to kick you off with this one. We did do a Villa one-line review, but I want to kick you off with this one because we've had a good chat about this on social media this week. Topic 2 that we had this week on Twitter was, should we drop Wayne Rooney from the squad based on how he started? Just to give you the fan vote on this one, Chris, firstly, 80% of fans said no, they wouldn't drop Wayne Rooney, which is either a very good show of loyalty towards Rooney or shows that there's no one else to do the job. Chris, what's your thoughts on Rooney?
Well, currently there is nobody in the squad that could replace Rooney, but I'm a massive Rooney fan. I know you guys are a bit dubious on that fact at the moment.
Nick, perhaps more so.
A little bit.
Rooney's record for United, he tries every week. He's been our talisman for years. And fair enough, I know he's only got, 20 plus Premier League goals in one season since he's been at United.
Yeah, it's poor.
But if we played with pace and a bit more verve, I think Rooney could still do a massive job for United. Massive job.
How much do you blame service to Rooney as the problem early doors this season?
Well, I think that's, which is another subject you've touched on, is the style of play, and that's the structure behind Van Gaal. We knew that was what he was going to do, and unfortunately, it might not suit the United fans or the United players.
Would Rooney get into the late 20s in terms of goals, Chris, if he was on the City team, for example, instead of Aguero?
Oh, now then, possibly. Definitely, maybe. I don't know. Yes, I think he would.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty. I'd be very dubious.
There was an Oasis album in there, wasn't there? Definitely, maybe.
Just a bit. Yeah. No pun intended.
I think he would though, Chris. If he was in that sort of team,
I'd agree with you.
Yeah, I think that's a problem. I think a lot of it does come down to the service provided and missing out on the likes of Pedro, who really is more a sort of winger that we need. Have we missed a trick there?
That's what I was just saying. That's what I was getting to. The season he scored 27 Premier League goals, 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
With Ronaldo. And the pace within that side suited Rooney's play. There were a little moment against Villa where I know Rooney turned provider, but we attacked with pace, and it flicked a beautiful ball on for Memphis, who unfortunately skied it for his hat-trick. And if we could play that intricate, quick style of play when we get in that final third or final half, I think we'd be an entirely different proposition altogether.
Definitely. Now, we talked in the United chat a moment or two ago, Chris, about United, sort of coming up against teams and them having a definite blueprint of how to play, and we just don't seem to be able to break it down. Now, one of the topics that we discussed on the Fan Takeover this week is, us being criticised for playing boring football, but whose fault is it? Is this a United issue, or is it a case that other teams just parking the bus? Who is more at fault for this?
Well, a lot of teams park the bus now, but I think it's more to do with Van Gaal's style of play, personally. He's got this very structured approach, including even his attacking players. If he was to maybe release front four, or front four plus a midfielder, when we win the ball, if we can press the ball high like he wants to do and win the ball, when we win the ball, let the front 4-5 do what they want and have a little bit more freedom. And I think we might see a little bit more fluidity in our attacking play and create more chances.
Do you think Louis is scared, Chris? Do you think he's scared to play that type of football?
I just think he's stuck in his old ways, his European football ways. He's always played that way.
Yeah, I totally agree.
He ain't going to change for the next 18 months. He says he's going to leave at the end of the next season.
I think this is
it. Why would he want to change now?
It's a fair point. 100% of fans that voted on that said it's United's fault, and I'd be inclined to agree.
Yeah.
I think teams have to, teams aren't incentivised enough, in my opinion, to come out and play football, and that might be a separate issue with the Premier League. With the TV money in the game now, teams have to do everything that they can to stay up. So I can understand that. Whether we're not introducing something, this is a bold idea, but something like a bonus point if you scored so many goals a game to try and incentivise people coming out and playing a bit.
Make Sunderland come out and play, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see what they've got to give to the Premier League. I just think it's well, they don't have a great deal, do they?
They're down already.
But
it just seems it's quite negative. Teams have to set up that way.
What worries me? Did you see the news about Schweinsteiger only costing $6 million?
Mm-hmm.
That means
6.3 million.
6.3 million. Yeah. That means our net spend, I think, is around 10 million, if that.
think
Oh,
it's-
you sound like
it's 8.
Brendan Rodgers net
8 million.
spend.
Yeah, so it's getting a bit worrying that. I was expecting a big
Oh,
summer,
no.
and we spent 8 mil.
Do you think the Glazers are a bit scared to commit after Di Maria and Falcao big money signings came in and didn't do anything?
I think that's it. Yeah.
I don't. I won't mind answers of what's going on with this transfer window at the minute.
I think we all would.
Either Ed Woodward or the Glazers. You know, I mean, we signed Schneidlin, great signing.
Yeah.
We signed Schweinsteiger, great signing. Signed Memphis, great signing. But then we lose out on someone we've been chasing for weeks, and it was well publicised that he was already over there. You know, I've seen pictures on Twitter from you guys of him on his sunbed in Barcelona, and
He's paella eating out there. Yeah, he had a good time.
I think that's all he was doing. I think he had too much sangria and forgot what it was there for. But and we've no idea why.
Yeah, I know.
This
Why
is an issue.
Why are we haggling over 2-3 million quid, which is what we're being reported?
Well, I mean, we
Why
had this
are we
conversation
haggling over
last
that?
week, didn't
It's a
we?
little embarrassing, yeah.
With another Chris on Twitter, Chris Varley mentioned, United supposedly have all this money, but when it comes to signing players, Chelsea are getting business done again. They've come in and hijacked it. City have signed Otamendi, and we're sat there going, no, we want this for 17 million, not 21.
And then-
Why are we haggling so much?
And then we get linked with Griezmann on the Express and the Mail, who's got a buyout clause of 60 million.
Plus, yeah.
Like we're going to pay
But
that.
this is the third season we've been hijacked. Fabregas last year by Chelsea,
Thiago.
and Thiago Alcantara. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a Spanish hat trick that's been done.
yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, well played. Chris, just before we let you go, of course, Newcastle come up to Old Trafford this weekend for the Saturday early kickoff.
Can't wait.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, I'm positive as always.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, good. Rooney has a fantastic record against Newcastle.
He does.
I agree
Did
with
he
that,
get- Two goals last year. I think did he set up Van Persie for one as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go big win for United, 4-1.
4-1.
That
He's
is
called
very-
it there,
yeah,
hasn't he?
Big
He's
call.
called it. Wow.
He does. Rooney does always play well against Newcastle.
He
though.
does. This could be exactly the game he needs.
I think so, yeah. And, I think once a couple of goals come, he's a player, when he's playing with confidence, fair enough, yes, there are better, but, he's up there with the Premier League's best. I'm not saying the world's best, but he's up there with the Premier League's best.
Absolutely.
It's about as ambitious as my 8-0 against Brugge, that 4-1.
That went well.
I think I went 5.
Rooney
Some
hat-trick as well.
Big predictions.
Yeah, Rooney hat-trick
Rooney
as well, yeah.
hat-trick.
Surrounded by positivity. It's good.
Yeah, that's the way.
That's what we need at times on this show, to be fair with you, Chris. Otherwise, we'd be running away with ropes at the moment, the way it's been going. But it's been a pleasure to have you on again, Chris. And
hey, thanks, guys.
Not at all. Thanks for calling into the
Yeah,
show, and
great.
hope to speak to you again soon.
Yeah, great show as always.
Thanks, Chris. Take
No,
care.
it's
All right,
See you later,
cheers,
mate.
boys. Ciao, now, mate. Bye.
So then the views then of Chris off Twitter. Brilliant call. Some great points made.
He's correct about Rooney there. I do agree with that. If he does get a few against Newcastle, it could possibly spur him on for the rest of the season.
It could. And as I said to Chris, 80% of the fans saying we shouldn't drop Rooney.
There's no one else there. I think that's effectively what it is.
That's probably what it is. But it's it's an important thing to have that backing from the fans, because we've all seen him come out and speak publicly about having one bad game and suddenly people on his back. James, just to bring you in, you've come into the studio to have a chat with us. We were just talking there about Rooney with Chris. Of course, Chris says that Rooney should stay in the squad. Is it just down to the fact that we have these lack of options, only having Hernandez, or is it that we should just give Rooney a chance? He will come good.
I mean, I think he hasn't been given much of a chance, and he has, said this week, give us a break. The goals will come. I think whether or not Hernandez has a part to play. I mean, we've got James Wilson as an option. I'm not 100% whether he's what we should be turning to. Whether Rooney should be dropping into the number 10, or whether we could be blaming the wings, with the service that is coming. But then, you saw a little glimpse of Memphis putting a ball in across the Fellaini, which, I know we kind of criticised boring football last year, but I could see that working in terms of playing, a more physical player up there with Rooney. So I suppose I would have thought Fellaini will feature as much as he did last year, and Rooney will probably drop again, and then Fellaini will play number 10. Whether that'll be interesting football, whether it'll bring the excitement to the game, I would probably question that.
I mean, we were saying there, a lot of teams are just going to have to sit back and park the bus with the money in football now in the Premier League. So is it a case then that we just have to battle that? Do we have to put up now with so-called boring football, stick Fellaini in there as an impact player? Is that the way we have to respond to it?
I mean, it depends. I mean, we said about Louis van Gaal and his ways. He's got 1 or 2 years maybe in him, and he said he'd retire after that. We saw Hernandez come on in the Champions League qualifier, and he brought a bit of excitement, he brought the pace. I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. You just need someone like that who can bring a little bit of speed or a bit of character to the game when the game looks like it may be wrapped up or finished. And I think if we can, bring a player in, maybe not Hernandez, but maybe a player like that could bring in that kind of play, then I think we don't have to put with that kind of boring football week in, week out.
Good point. I'm just going to quickly go through some of the thoughts on people who got involved on Twitter this week on this one regarding the Rooney drop-in. Tim Jones started this one off. He said, tough question. Trust him for now, but if he isn't doing it by January, we need to get someone class in. At Wizard1979 said, he will come good. Class is permanent. I don't know if that's an argument that we agree with. Is he class anymore?
No.
There you go, simple as that. At Ax23, that's of course Alex. He says, not a huge fan of Chicharito at all, but he can't do a worse job than Rooney.
Fair point.
Probably a fair point. And Big C 75 agrees I'd start Hernandez as well. So that's some of the thoughts on Twitter.
I think fans just want
to
see excitement. I think that's all it is. And
could Hernandez
Rooney's
bring that?
Not a player anymore. No.
Exactly. This is
still
a problem.
Why are we linked with Muller? Why are we linked with Pedro, even though we didn't get him? We're linked to these players that are exciting because we don't have any at the moment. We've got obviously Memphis, who's probably the only one we've got who can change a game right now. We've got Januzaj, who isn't ready, still very raw. And then we've got a lot of experience of players, obviously Schweinsteiger and Carrick. And we've got a lot of players sort of in the middle of the careers, so to speak, like the Schneidlins, he's 24, 25. Is he in his peak yet? No. Is he past his best? No. So it's a middle of the fence thing, isn't it? But we've not got any players that are exciting. That's the worrying thing.
Just to throw that out, I mean, we said about dropping Rooney there in the last tweet. What would you have to look at what the benefit of that is. If you drop Rooney from the squad, what's Rooney going to gain from that? Yeah, he doesn't play the game, but what does he learn from that? He doesn't play for a game, but if he's not given the chances and if he's not given the supply, then is there a point to dropping him? Is there something behind that that's going to be useful or not?
Maybe it's an issue as a team that needs to be addressed. Chris said about service, and I'm inclined to agree the service has been poor for Rooney. And, when you turn to Twitter and look at, United being criticised for playing boring football in general, it's not just down to Rooney. Atkinseller377 says, United awful to watch. We can make excuses, but we pay good money to watch good football. It's a fair point. It's the whole team. And that is, of course, impacting on Rooney, who's the star man, supposedly, of that show, playing up front. He should be the man getting the goals. But
if we sign Thomas Muller, for example, and we somehow manage to get him over from Munich, where does that leave Rooney?
Number 10 at best, on the bench at worst.
Would that be a bad thing?
I don't know, because the thing is, bringing in Thomas Muller, yes, he's a player of great quality, but then we all know that Rooney has still got some form of quality. We all disagree to what level of quality he has, but he is still a very good footballer. So is it not more around the way that United set up around their centre-forward that's causing the problems? That's the big question.
I said earlier on the show, I still think he has a lot to offer to United. I'm not disagreeing that he doesn't. I still think he's a very good footballer. I just don't think he's the right man to lead us to the title. If we were to sign someone of Muller's ilk, in that, even the Griezmann maybe, obviously we've been linked with him, and he was to be put up front, and Wayne was dropped number 10 role, for example, and he didn't perform, and then he was took out the team for one game, and then say Mata was put in number 10 role, and we won 3 or 4-0, and we played really well. What would Rooney kick up a fuss again and start handing in transfer requests, or would he be a captain and support the squad in any position? Because I think a lot of United fans are worried about how Rooney would react to being dropped.
I don't think we have to worry about that anymore. Because I think now at the age that Rooney's getting to, he's heading towards the twilight period of his career. I know it's early doors, but he's not going to have that many more years. It's not like when he was sort of mid to early 20s when he was at that stage and he said he wanted to leave. He was a crucial, integral part of the team.
He could hold
then.
us to ransom, yeah. And he was scoring 25 plus this season.
At this stage of the game, he sort of, with being a captain, has to show some sort of responsibility for me anyway.
Even if that's on the bench or in the stands, he still has to be some sort of reflection on the team.
But I think in number 10, I think it's better for him because naturally he seems to be sucked into the midfield anyway. When he gets frustrated when he's not getting the service, that's where he goes.
Better than Mata at number 10?
I don't think he is.
I
think Mata's more creative.
This is the issue we have. I think he's a squad player at best. I know it's a big thing to say, but if we get better players in, I can't see a spot for him.
I think Mata's better in that role. But let's move on to the final topic within the fan takeover before we move on here, which of course is the prediction for United against Newcastle. We've set up a predictor league. I will be publishing it shortly. It's 1 point if you get the correct result, 3 points if you get the correct scoreline. We'll get some of the thoughts.
We all failed miserably last week.
We've not done well so far, have we, with this? But no one's got the right scoreline yet, believe it or not.
That's the big one, isn't it?
I'll fire through some of the thoughts on Twitter before we get our opinions in the studio on this. But at Big C75 goes another boring display, 1-0. Cogsy666 went 1-1 again before saying he was only joking. He's gone for a 2-0. At Series 1 says 2-0 as well, and Alex goes 1-0.
Oh, he's even said that we'll get 3 shots on target now.
3 shots.
That's a big call, Alex.
Bold. I said maybe 1 shot and 1 deflected shot.
Yeah, I was thinking. Or maybe hit the bar from a fluky scruff shot.
Possibly. Yeah. Let's get some thoughts on the score in the studio before we move on to the shootout, which comes up next. James, we'll kick off with you. What score do you think?
I mean, looking at how Newcastle played under Steve McLaren, umbrella in hand, he's still got a lot to answer to. We had the sending off of Janat last week, a crucial player from the side that's missing. They have got a point to prove. Again, United have a point to prove. Rooney, who's obviously had to taken a lot of slack, has a lot to answer for as well. Nick mentioned, obviously scored quite a lot of goals there, and I think he probably will. I think it'll be a 3-1 win to United.
3-1.
Whether or not it'll be an exciting game, I can't see United banging goal upon goal in.
Fair enough. I think it's an interesting point on Janmaat with him being sent off. I think
solid right back.
Memphis gets an opportunity here out on the left to really show up. Newcastle's right back that'll be coming in to replace Janmaat. Joe, I'm going to go with you next. What radical scoreline are you going for?
I waved 7 at you.
17-0.
I thought you were doing the Fellaini celebration.
I don't know what. I don't actually know.
I haven't got a clue what that was about.
Who knows? Maybe it was my prediction this week. But
maybe you said 5-2 to United at the weekend.
Maybe. No, I'm not going to go 7. Let's be more serious this week.
17.
Maybe with Janmaat missing. No, I think. Like you say, I think Rooney's got something to prove. So 1 goal from him. Memphis still yet to open his tally in the Premiership. 1 goal for him, and I think there'll be a scruffy one somewhere by someone. So 3-0.
3-0. Okay, Nick, moving on to you.
I think potentially this could be one of Wayne Rooney's biggest games for the United in the last few years. Obviously, Newcastle are a team he's always done well against. Transfer window's still open. If we were to say draw 1-1 at home or win very unconvincingly again, and Rooney perform lacklustre again, would Van Gaal finally dip into the market and get a world-class striker? So it's a huge game for Rooney. I'm going to go 2-0 United.
Right, okay. I didn't think anyone was going to take my scoreline, but Nick's just gone for it. I think it'll be another one of those games that passes us by without much happening in terms of events. I think Newcastle will sort of sit back and hope to just take a 0-0. Although saying that under McLaren, they are pushing up a little bit higher up the pitch, so maybe that could work for us. I'm going to go 2-0 though. I think Rooney, this might be the week he opens his tally.
A quick question for you.
Go on.
It is another unconvincing performance by Rooney. And we still win and whatever, but that's the 4th on the trot now. Start season, he's not played very well. He's had a whole pre-season under his belt. There's been no international tournament to distract him. Where does it lie? How long does it go till Van Gaal thinks I need to dip into the market before it closes?
Either before September the 1st, if he's in a rush to get it right for the season, or in January if he's willing to give his captain a chance. Well, we shall see. Some of the big questions to follow from Joe, that's coming up next in the shootout. So each week, producer Joe comes on to the show to ask some of the big questions surrounding Manchester United from the week. He has 2 questions each from me and Nick. He has a bit.
You're struggling yourself.
I'm struggling now. So that'd be 4 questions in total, if I've done my maths right. There we go. And then we have 1 for Joe that we also fire out to you, the fans, as well. So that's 5 in total, because of course it can't be a shootout without 5.
Well, that it's been exhausted now.
That will remain the catchphrase forever.
I mean, for the new people listening, it won't be too bad, but the regulars might get a bit sick of that one.
Yeah, they might do. For those of you that are new to listening to the show, though, just to give you an idea about what the Shootout actually is, for each of the questions that Joe gives to Nick and I, we have 30 seconds. We have a time limit on the amount of time that we're allowed to answer the question for. After 30 seconds, we then have to be quiet, and then we throw it out for a general debate on the floor. And then, of course, we throw one, as I say, back to Joe at the end, just for a bit of excitement.
Well,
and so I can use the catchphrase, more importantly.
Well, it's more for the fans as well. Let's all be honest, because they obviously have to answer that question as well.
It's a good question as well, so
No,
I'd be
it is this
interested to
week.
hear people's opinion on this at WeFollowUnited on Twitter.
Really given a reason to carry on listening now, haven't you?
Exactly. So, Joe, let's crack on. You've got 4 questions for us, first of all. Who's the first one for?
Well, as always, it's for you, Andy.
Fantastic.
No, I'm pretty sure you know this by now. That's the way it goes.
starting to get jealous a little bit.
Yeah, so Andy, it's my favourite topic.
Go on.
of all things, is Januzaj a genuine striking option?
He's taking advantage of his technical skills here now, Andy.
I had a feeling there might be a bit of canned laughter with that. Well, I'm going to start my 30 seconds with the laughter going on here. What I would say is that, no, Januzaj is not a genuine striking option, so I do agree with the laughter to a degree. Louis van Gaal came out and said it this week in a press conference, as well as Rooney. We do have Hernandez, Wilson and Januzaj. The Januzaj worried me a lot because he isn't a striker. There seems to be this obsession that wingers now can play as centre forwards. I think it stems back to Thierry Henry's success early doors in the Premier League with this. We now see it a lot with the likes of Walcott. Now Januzaj being touted for it. They're just not good enough finishes for being a centre forward.
They're not all round enough.
Close,
to be honest.
just about 30 seconds.
To be a centre forward, you've got to be good at a numerous amount of things. You've got to be able to hold the ball up, win the ball in the air. Strikers and wingers especially, are universally known for not being able to hold the ball up.
Januzaj in particular can't do either of those things.
He can't head the ball.
He can't finish either.
So how can we have him leading the line in the Premier League?
Sorry.
I mean, overall, his attributes are pretty poor to be a striker.
He's good at hitting things against items to get into the end goal. But
Feel the hate.
James, let's get your opinion, because we didn't catch you on this earlier on, but what's your thoughts on Januzaj? A genuine striking option?
I don't think he's your lone striker. He's not going to be the answer to your prayers for goals week in, week out. He will against Aston Villa. I know, Joe, they've disagreed on this one. But watching him, he did hold up the ball to a small extent. I mean, whether or not it's going to be enough for him to play in the striking role, I disagree. But I do think against Villa, he did start to hold the ball up. Yeah, he's a small lad. He's not got the build to be able to hold it off, but he did hold up the ball.
It's like a quick burst gym session for him. He did it for about 10 minutes and then went missing for the rest of the game.
I mean, he does need to bulk up.
He could do with going to the gym with Memphis.
Has he even got the pace to run in behind, though?
I didn't see much pace from him.
He's not electric, is he? By any means.
I thought he was. He's quick over the first 10 yards.
I'm quick over the first yard. Don't get me many places, mate.
You're lightning over the first yard, Andy.
But I think we can all agree then, Januzaj is not a genuine striking option.
Not at all.
I don't know what Van Gaal's thinking there.
Well, moving on then. I've got no special link for this one.
Oh, you flat us out.
I know. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I've got nothing special to say.
Well, let's hear it.
Nick, what do you expect to see from United versus Newcastle?
Not a lot. I think it'll be the same old, same old. I think on paper, obviously, we're a far better team than Newcastle. We'll dominate the game, particularly in the back four area. Newcastle sit back with 10 men in front of the ball. We'll probably get a goal 60th, 70th minute, 1-0. We'll then sit back and Newcastle will come at us for a few minutes. They'll then lose the ball. We might get another one on the break and the game will potentially end 1-0 or 2-0.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, it sounds like a real cracker. You've sold this one to me, Nick.
I'm just going to return that season ticket this year.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
But you didn't even use the 30 seconds. When you said not a lot, I thought that was literally all you were going to go with.
I genuinely just...
Poor,
I just think it's been so poor over the last couple of games. I can't see a great step up in the 3 or 4 days since we've played Brugge. I just think it'll be the same old stuff, different day. I think we'll win the game, don't get me wrong, but I don't think we'll see the exciting football that everyone wants to see.
Well, there you go. Do you think we'll see any excitement from the game, James?
Well, like Nick said, if Newcastle sit back and United are obviously sitting back at the moment, you've got two teams sat back.
But who are they sitting back on? There's nobody in there to sit back on.
Watching United play football is like World War I trench warfare. it's like there's no man's land in the middle of the pitch, and then we've got the ball in our centre back positions. They'll have the ball in their centre back positions, and then we've got Rooney sort of wandering around the centre spot. That's pretty much what's going on.
But do you not think with a bit more excitement from United in the last game that we could start stepping it up and start getting a bit of confidence behind us?
Without being disrespectful to Club Brugge, I'd even say Newcastle are better than them. That is how poor the opponents are.
2 strikers are needed for the Newcastle game. You've got a team that's going to sit back.
We've got to go for it.
There's only, it's only so long they can sit back and hold it. But if you're going to sit back yourself on them, like you said, the world.
Would you encourage Newcastle to attack to hit them on the counter with missing links back there?
I don't think we need to. I think we're good enough to tear them apart with what we've got, and we don't have to wait till they're on the counter.
So you're suggesting we play 4-4-2 then, James?
I would go for 2 up top. We've talked about excitement. We've got a team that's going to sit back. Why, not take advantage of that? They're not playing well. They haven't found the form yet. There's still new players playing for Newcastle. You need to take advantage of that.
I'd play 4-3-3.
Well, Andy, with that, here we go. With that formation, 4-4-2.
He's found a link.
There's there must be room for some more faces that we haven't seen this year.
There he goes. He's back
Andy,
on form.
What do Herrera and Pereira need to get into the starting 11?
I'm not sure. With Herrera, it's the most baffling thing to me because Herrera deserves a start automatically in that team all day long. A lot of the players that we see in that midfield are too samey. We need more attacking flair, and I think maybe Herrera needs to take away some of that risk in his game to get into the team, which is sad. In terms of Pereira, we saw in pre-season, we saw what he's capable of doing at the Under-20s World Cup for Brazil as well. Why is Januzaj getting a start over Pereira, who impressed in pre-season?
Wow. Something that's happening in training that we're not seeing.
I think we said this last week, but can you really judge off training? I mean, watching Memphis, he must be trying a few of them stupid back heels that he tried about 10 times that worked about once. So I think that you've got to argue that training is not a great place to look at your game as a total because you're playing against the same team. You know your team, don't you? Whereas we're going away to people like Brugge, we're not going to know that team how they play at home.
Well,
so
quick question for Andy then before we finish: what formation or team would you play?
I think you have to go 4-3-3 for this one.
Yeah,
I know I begged for 4-2-3-1, but Van Gaal's not playing it right anyway. So I'd bring Herrera into the midfield and drop that central attacking player.
Does Pereira come in with that?
Well, I think the only way that Pereira comes in is if you're willing to play him on the right of the 3. I don't know if Van Gaal would take that risk because he played him on the left of the 3, but that's where Memphis is surely starting. So Pereira in that formation, I think, probably misses out again.
Could Pereira be a kind of a loan option for this year?
He might have to be, but it's sad if that's the case.
He needs to be brought. Van Gaal needs to take a risk on him and play him.
I made the point last week about it being more about the pace of the play than the pace of the players. It's about the intent. And I think when you see Pereira on the ball, it's exciting, it's dynamic, it's quick. Same with Herrera as well. And I think when you get the likes of Carrick and Schneiderlin in the midfield on the ball, nothing against them as players because they're brilliant in the job that they do, but they're not going to bring the flair and the pace to the game. That's my issue.
Is that not something that, Ashley Young and Antonio Valencia could bring to the game? I know we've not really kind of seen much of them that year, and I know we said Valencia's kind of dropped to right back and he's been phased out, but we've said about that right side, there's nothing up there for a right winger. Could Valencia be given a chance? Could Ashley Young be given a chance, maybe?
I mean, Young's been played on the left. I mean, I'm sure he could play it out on the right.
I mean, he has done for in the past.
Yeah. Whether you'd give Valencia it, I wouldn't.
I mean, you look back to Spurs when Valencia came on and we started getting battered for the last 10 minutes. It's not a player that we can have ultimate confidence in.
The team I'd play going up against Newcastle, I'd have Romero in net. He's not put much of a foot wrong. Obviously, the dodgy goal against Bruges, he could have maybe done better.
Good goal by Carrick.
Yep, I'd have Darmian.
Quality finisher.
Darmian, Smalling, Blind, maybe Rocco if he's fit.
Over Shaw? Oh, over Blind, you mean?
Yeah.
I was going to say, you can't take Shaw out that
Shaw at left back. I'd have a midfield of Schweinsteiger just sitting because I wasn't impressed with Carrick against Bruges and he didn't look fit, which is quite surprising. I'd have Herrera on the right-hand side of the centre midfield. I'd have Schneiderlin on the left-hand side of the centre midfield. I'd have Memphis on the left wing. Rooney up top because I don't think we've got much better at the moment. Maybe take a risk on Wilson. And I'd probably play Mata with Pereira on the bench and introduce him.
Yeah.
So no loan for Pereira this transfer window.
I think he's too good a player to loan out in my eyes.
Well, Nick, that brings me on to our next question, which is how will United end this transfer window?
Superb. So how will they end the transfer window was the question fired in between me laughing at that, and that one's for you, Nick.
Again, not a lot. I think we'll be linked with numerous players between now and the 1st of September. Obviously, we'll talk about this later on in the transfer talk, but we'll get our hopes up with some really big name, and then we'll end up signing Mane, and every United fan will then try sort of justify how he's just as good a player as this world-class player we got linked with. I just think there's something going on behind closed doors of United at the moment. I don't know if it's the Glazers getting involved, if they're not so forthcoming with the money as they were the year before. But net spend of only 8 million when you're expecting a big summer, not good enough.
I miss kind of rumours of Bale coming to United. That would have been an exciting move. But it's kind of all gone quiet everywhere in that sense. We have no more links with goalkeepers, no more links with forwards. We had Pedro, but that's the end of that. No centre-backs. There's nothing out there.
Do the rumours come in, though, about these bids going in just to appease fans and keep them happy?
I think they do in one sense, because you always look at United's history. I've mentioned it in the pre-season that we seem to be able to hide deals well. I mean, you look at Mata in the January window, that was well hidden. You look at Ronaldo, it was a kind of a random transfer that nobody really expected because he had one good game against us. I think we've hidden transfers well in the past, and I don't know if we're trying to do it again now. I don't know if that's the way forward.
The Romero deal was out of nowhere. It was announced at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
I didn't have a clue we were going to even link with him.
So maybe there is some hidden business being done behind closed doors by Ed. Maybe Ed's in Spain after all for a reason.
I'm very sceptical.
I think he has to be. I think with a club as big as United, whether you rate Woodward in what he does in terms of getting deals done or not, you have to think they've got a plan B, surely. If you miss out on Pedro, you have another player you have to go for. If you miss out on Otamendi or you don't want Otamendi, whatever the reason was, you have to have backups.
Well, you can't tell me, or anyone, we're both sat here now, that Van Gaal's seen City strengthen, even though they've played very well. Chelsea have strengthened, who are the current champions. You can't tell anyone that Van Gaal is sit there thinking, I'm happy with my squad.
I mean, even Liverpool have strengthened. Aston Villa even have spent 50 million plus.
I mean, they needed to, or they were going down this year.
There's big spending going on across the league now.
We started the summer so well, and it's just turning into the old United again.
Fair enough. Well, Joe, a question for you and a question also for the fans for 30 seconds for you. We've just talked there, I'm going to try a link out of my own here, about United missing out on centre-back targets as well as centre-forwards. So have Daley Blind's performances at centre-back convinced you that he's worthy of being Smalling's partner?
Well, thanks very much for joining in the link game. Yes, I do believe that. I mentioned it before. I clearly haven't read the topics for today. But no, I do believe that Blind has been a very clever defender in that position. I think that it's a nice, new, refreshing kind of playing out United. I know it's not exciting, but at least we're in control throughout. I don't think putting a different defender in that role at the moment would work any different. I think that it's different to what we've had for a while, and I think why not try something new if it's not been working in the past?
Fair points. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to dislodge Blind now following those good performances. I think as we touched on earlier in United chat, though, those big games that you see against City, those games in Europe, that will be the big test. And I think if Blind gets it wrong there, who's coming in? Because Rojo, of course, we've mentioned, might be the better of the two players as a defender. Phil Jones' career seems to be a constant flow of injuries or illnesses. So I mean, are we
pitches?
Or pitches, yeah. Are we going to be left in a bit of a hole here if we don't get a signing in?
I think our back four right now, our current best back four, if we don't sign anyone else, is Darmian, Smalling, Rocco, and Shaw. I don't think there's anyone better than that in the club.
I mean, you put a tweet out with this formation, didn't you? With Lloris in net behind them all. I don't.
Yeah, that was Nick guilty for that one.
Yeah.
Any of you.
Guilty.
But I mean, the thing is, in my opinion, Rojo, if he does have to come in, if Blind can't cope with playing that role, I don't think he's naturally that good as a centre-back. I think he's too casual on too many times on the ball.
I mean, we said he looked good on the left-back position, didn't you? Wing-back, he was
you
up
can
and
get
down.
away with a little bit more.
Why did we sign him, though? Did we sign him for left-back or did we sign him for centre-half?
I think he's a great signing still. I don't think we can argue with the talent of him. I think it's just he doesn't have a place. Well, we didn't think Blind was going to have a place, did we?
I said it last week. Him and Smalling need a solid 10-15 game run before we can judge it. He hasn't had that yet. He's been at the club a year, and to not have a 10-game run at your favoured position, it's a little bit weird.
James, let me bring you in on this. I've got a question for you. Rojo and Smalling, are they too similar in terms of style at the back?
I mean, you see Smalling's performances. He's obviously earned his place, and it's sad to see Phil Jones hasn't really progressed in the same light. Rojo, he's a bit risky. He can be stuck in, sliding around on the ground. I quite like Blind, and I disagree. I think he's quite a clever player. I think, I'm not sure whether Van Gaal's playing him for the right reason with the right-footed and left-footed. I don't think that's, got anything to do with it. But I think he's a clever player. He has played at left-back. He's proven he can play there. And he's, as he's getting on in his years, maybe it's a good move for him to, move into that centre-back, and he can start to adapt and stay there, into the long-term future.
Do we think intelligence is needed in that role?
Yes, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, look at Phil Jones.
And that,
and that's why he's not developed.
Double-digit IQ, plays centre-half, injured all the time.
Johnny Evans isn't going to get a look in. So.
No.
I mean, I don't even know where he's gone. He's probably presenting with
who would you rather have at centre-back now? Smalling and McNair, or Smalling and Evans, or Smalling and Jones?
See, I don't...
McNair for me.
McNair for me.
I'd go for Jones.
But again, Smalling likes to play the ball out, run the ball out into the midfield. So does McNair, and I think McNair doing them runs, he doesn't seem to track back as well.
Where's McNair gone this year? We've not really seen him yet.
Well, he's not. He doesn't come back and fill that role that he needs to. He may make these amazing runs, and everyone.
Another person we've not mentioned, Tyler Blackett. Where was he fit?
He's not good enough.
After that own goal, I think.
Still only 20.
I don't think he's ever going to get the chance in the team again. I think Van Gaal trusted him early doors. And I think until Van Gaal leaves, I don't think you're going to see much of Blackett.
That's a big call. I disagree with that.
Not a bad thing, I would say.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's got a lot of potential, but it's not been fulfilled.
I think it's too soon to judge him.
I think when Van Gaal makes that decision, though, what I'm saying is I don't necessarily agree with
Nick,
it.
I find it interesting that you want to see players given 15 games chances, but when you watch Rooney, you'll give him 3 games and make your opinion on that.
Yeah, but I've seen Rooney play for the last 10 years now.
But not in that role, the centre forward role.
I've seen the Rooney of old. I've seen him play up front. I've seen him score 27 goals in a season. And now I've seen him score 12 goals in a season, look unfit and look slow. It isn't the same Rooney, that's the difference. Whereas these players, I've not seen them long term, so I can't judge them enough to make the comments that we're making.
If you were playing McNair, midfield, defence...
No, I'd play McNair. I'd play McNair centre half. I wouldn't throw him about all over the pitch.
Over Rojo, though?
No.
Maybe.
So we can't give him a chance?
Well, we can, because that's only Smalling, Rojo and McNair. I'd loan out Blackett. I'd get rid of Evans. I'd get rid of Jones.
So you're saying you'd play McNair then over Blind?
Currently, I don't think Blind's a centre half. I think he's a short-term fix. I know he's performed well, but long-term he isn't a centre-back.
Have these players got chances in the Capital One Cup and the early stages of the FA Cup?
If they don't get beat 4-0 by MK Dons first time round, then they've got a chance.
I think these players have got chances at home against teams like Watford and at home against teams like Hull City. I don't think the players that are poor in the Premier League, I just think we don't have the time to give them chances.
Well, no player is going to be able to play 50 games a season, are they? At the current rate of how much we're going into games.
But we still have Deadwood in the squad that we need to get rid of. Like, who would have thought on the 20th of August when we recorded this, Johnny Evans is still at the club?
Says a lot, doesn't it? Please let your opinions be shown on Twitter. We're at We Follow United. Is Daley Blind a centre-back that's worthy of playing alongside Chris Smalling? Do let us know that. Answer any of the other questions as well, of course, from the shootout. Do get involved, as I say, on Twitter and also in the comments section below on the YouTube video. Next up to finish the show, no, it isn't Dodgy Dave. He's away in Belgium. We believe watching the F1. Some rumours say that he's been sold still.
Second game of the qualifier, maybe.
Maybe so, yeah. Maybe he's off to Club Brugge. We'll find out from him hopefully next week when he's back. So to finish the show, it's Transfer Talk. And people say these players ain't loyal. That according to Nick anyway. The final transfer talk, or one of the final transfer talks of this season, involves some big names again. We've missed out on Pedro. We've missed out on Otamendi. So on this week's dedicated transfer talk, we've got Laporte, Muller, Griezmann, and of course, David De Gea. So now we've fulfilled Nick's odd request for the week.
Oh, thank you very much.
Let's go ahead with the dedicated transfer talk. And let's kick off with a rumour that's come back full circle. That, of course, is Laporte. Rumours again that he could be the latest in a long line of centre-backs coming to Old Trafford. Nick, talk to me about Laporte.
Well, I've not really seen a lot of him. I do, obviously, I watch quite a lot of La Liga, but mainly for Barcelona. Obviously, you know how much I like them. But Laporte, I've seen him 3, maybe 4 times. He's a very good footballer on the ball. He's a very good centre-half. But I've not got enough an opinion to judge because I've not seen him enough. £36 million buyout clause, if you're led to believe it. I personally believe it's just doing the rounds in the media. I think they've run out of names to link us with, and that's the next one.
Yeah, so it could be an issue there. I mean, with the whole Otamendi saga, Laporte was similar timing to that, and that was a deal that strung out and didn't get done in the end. Is this another one of those?
Well, it was originally broke first by the Mail, I think. They're the ones that broke it, saying that United were looking at him, and that's the new reason Ed was in Spain. But why would you go to Barcelona to look at a Bilbao player? It just seems a little strange.
Maybe he got lost. We know what Ed's like.
Yeah, it could be that.
Let's move on to another one that's come back full circle again. That's Thomas Muller back on the radar. €85 million bid.
I believe this. I think this has got a lot more weight to it than the Laporte rumours. I think Van Gaal's been after him all summer. I think a lot of the reasons Van Gaal's been very quiet with his transfer business because I think Muller is one of the number 1 targets that we have. Bayern are reluctant to sell, but I don't think Pep is. I think Pep likes him. Obviously, he played very well against Hamburg, scored 2 goals, and I was led to believe. So I do believe this one. We bid €85 million, I think about 65 million quid. I can see this one having a bit of legs on it.
So you don't think it's just one of these that the sort of Glazers put out into the media, just say, look, we are putting big bids out, players just don't want to join us?
No, I think Muller is Van Gaal's perfect type of player. I think he's a long-term Van Persie replacement. I think that's how Van Gaal sees him.
Chances of him coming?
Slim.
Yeah,
I think if it was down to Pep Guardiola, I think we'd get him because I don't think Pep wants him. I think Pep would go for someone else in the market who'd be more suited, possibly an Isco type player or something at Madrid. But the Bayern Munich's CEO doesn't want to sell, and if he doesn't want to sell, Pep doesn't sell.
Let's talk then about Griezmann. There was a tweet this week about Rooney.
Oh, Rooney.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this tweet, are there any legs in this? I mean, we've missed out on Pedro, of course. Is Griezmann, we've talked about this realistically, it's a bigger sellout clause. Are we going to pay that sort of money for Griezmann?
Well, the Griezmann story came from the Express. I think they're the first ones that got onto the ball about it, and he has got a new clause. He had 4 years left in his contract, and Atletico offered him a new deal.
They've been clever with this.
They've been very clever. He scored 22 goals in the league last season. He's 24. He had a 30 million buyout clause. It's now been extended to, I think it's €80 million. So it's jumped up quite a fair bit. It might be a bit more than that. I'm not entirely sure. But it's around 60 million quid, basically, if you want him. Will United pay it? We wouldn't pay 21 for Pedro. Would we pay 60 million for Griezmann?
Is he that much better?
No, not right now.
It's a lot of money.
Potentially, he's a lot better than Pedro. I think he's the same ilk as Aguero. I think he's that sort of mould. He's similar height, low centre of gravity, unbelievably quick, very good dribbler, great finisher. If you can get him on the ball. Would we get him? Would you take him? I'd probably have him ahead of Muller personally.
Yeah, because of the versatility that he provides.
He can play across the front 3. He's a lot quicker than Muller. He's got that low centre of gravity, which we mentioned in previous weeks. It might be suited to the Premier League more. And obviously, Muller's a lot more slow, and I think we need pace in the team right now. And I'd be willing to pay it if we could get him through the door, personally.
I would as well. I just want to touch on something that's been breaking recently here, Nick.
Yep.
It's not regarding United. Manchester City have agreed terms.
We record this on Thursday nights. It's all over Twitter right now. Things might change, but apparently
they have
agreed a fee for about 50 million for Kevin De Bruyne. It's very worrying from our point of view. They're signing Otamendi, they've got Sterling, they've got De Bruyne, some very exciting players.
Chelsea got Pedro.
And at the moment, we've got Mane looking at us.
It's worrying, isn't it? What do you reckon to the Mane deal? Is he good enough for United, just to touch on him?
No. If he comes, he's a squad player. Obviously, he's lightning quick, but he's blighted with inconsistency. That's his main asset. That's all he seems to have. He'll play one game, score you 3 goals, and the next game he'll get taken off after half-time.
Okay. Interesting one on the outgoing side of things. A new story on this one. David De Gea continues to rumble on. We'll end with this one, Nick. Pre-contract agreement. Real Madrid are supposedly now offering David De Gea £12 million to stay at United. How bizarre is this?
I believe it. I believe this was always going to happen. I think from the start of the summer to the end of the summer, Van Gaal is determined not to let him go. He's trying to be brave and keep a face to Real Madrid, saying that how we've kept our player. But at the end of the day, he's got 12 months left on his contract, maybe even less than. I think it's 10 months. He doesn't want to sign a new one. He wants to go back to Spain. I can see this happening. I think
Real Madrid have had us over again, haven't they? Over the barrel yet again.
They've been very clever with it. Very astute. We've lost out on Ramos. and it's looking like De Gea is going to get 12 million quid in 12 months' time to go and play for his dream club.
So it's happy days for him. He sits out his contract.
Happy days for him. It's happy days Madrid. They know everything's going for them fine. He's coming
and we're left
months.
with Sergio Romero.
And we're left with Sergio Romero. Yeah.
It's poor planning again from United. Will they sign anyone before the transfer deadline ends? It, of course, closes September 1st. Time is rapidly running out for United with key positions still to strengthen.
It's just a quick one to ask you, Andy. If we were to sign Griezmann for, say, £60 million and we were to sign a Laporte of this world for £36 million, that's nearly 100 quid there. Is that constituting good business? On top of the other 5 signings we've made?
I think it represents a decent end to it. From where we're heading at the moment, you'd certainly take it now.
Would Griezmann make us a title challenger if he was playing up front?
That's a tough one.
22 goals last season in the Liga.
Different league. I think he could turn us into a potential challenger. I don't think he's quite there yet in terms of being that ready-made world-class striker, though.
Would you rather have Muller or Griezmann?
At the moment, with what we need, I'd take Muller because I think we need more about the goals, and I think
experience.
Griezmann is more about playing on the wings, as you say, experience as well. So, personally for me, Muller. But please do get involved on Twitter with regards to any of the transfer talk that we've had. Who would you have, Griezmann or Muller? Will we get either? Answer these questions and more. No. We're at We Follow United on Twitter. There is no podcast, unfortunately, next week due to unforeseen circumstances. I will try and put an express show out there for you for next week. And in the meantime, though, do subscribe, like, comment below, get your score predictions in for the Newcastle game. And thanks always for listening.